Let's talk sourdough. This is my dormant sourdough starter that I used to make my active sourdough starter, and this is my process when I want to make a bread. Now I want to talk about maintaining your sourdough starter. So while your sourdough starter is inactive and in the refrigerator, there's a few things you want to do. Make sure every few weeks or so, go in and stir in that hooch, that liquid that you see on the top. Make sure you go ahead and stir that in. Get that mix back into your starter. That's a part of the fermentation process. You don't want to have it sit out there for too long. Your sourdough starter can be stored in the refrigerator once you have made a very strong starter that you know you can now start to make loaves from. If you want to know how to make your own sourdough starter from scratch, just comment how down below, and I'll make sure I send you my sourdough starter guide straight from my website. You guys can go and check that out. It is super easy. I want to use 200 grams of very active starter. When your starter is at its peak hydration, that's when you want to go ahead and start your loaf process. So we are getting the starter into the warm water, and then we're going to try to dissolve that as much as possible before we add our flour. Once you do that, let that sit room temperature for about an hour. Now you don't have to necessarily feed your starter every single time that you remove from it. My process is I like to go into my main starter, feed it a 1:1:1 ratio with flour and water, and after that, when it gets down to less than 200 grams of my starter, that's when I'll feed it again. Now from my 20 grams that I pull out, I can grow that starter over a couple of days into enough starter to make however many loaves that I want to make. So I'm going to show you guys how I put together a loaf of bread right now. Now you're going to start a series of stretch and folds. 3 to 4 stretch and folds are what you really want. Now, one key thing about stretch and folds, try your best to stretch the dough without breaking. Now, in your stretch and folds, wet hands are very important. So have some water right next to you. Every second time you're touching the dough, you want to get your hands wet. Now, after we get our stretch and folds done, it is time for a bulk proof. Bulk proofing is done room temperature, and you want to let that sit out for between 8 to 12 hours and let it give the biggest rise that it can get. Now you don't have to do a cold proof. A lot of people do a cold proof, but for me, a cold proof is only used when I don't have enough time to make my bread right away. In your cold proof, you're not really going to get another rise per se, but your bread is going to start to get more sour. Get your dough shaped up, get on some parchment paper. Get your Dutch oven hot, drop dough in the Dutch oven, and you're going to get that thing in the oven. Bake covered for about a half hour, and then uncovered for another 15 to 20 minutes until your bread is reading internal temperature about 200, 205 degrees Fahrenheit. Make sure you guys check out the full recipe over on my website. See how you can start your own sourdough starter, and let me know what you guys think down in the comments.